So I thought, what better way to do the review of this camera than to actually record it on the camera. So this is being recorded on a MacBook, and it's being captured within QuickTime directly from the camera in maximum quality. This is the QuickTime C922 Pro Streaming Webcam. It's the successor to the 920, and I just want to talk about a couple of points about the camera, what I think of it, and really just do a basic review of it. So the camera records in 1080p, 30 frames a second, or 720p, and this is where it's had the ramp up. You can now do 60 frames a second. Of course, you need to have sufficient light to be able to record at those kind of frame rates, so it might not suit every environment for which this camera is designed. And they're selling this as a streaming pro webcam, so you're kind of Twitch users, your gamers, the people who want to have a camera on top of their monitor so they can put themselves picture in picture in the bottom corner of a screen, something like that. And that's a kind of specialist, it's a specialist market. It's a pretty big market, but it is a specialist market. And I think they're aiming at that largely now because most devices have webcams on anyway. This MacBook that I'm using at the moment has a webcam on it. I don't need a separate webcam for this MacBook, but I need one, and I use one on my PC because that doesn't have anything built into it. Not many people are like that anymore. So how does it perform? Well, look for yourself. I would say at the moment it's really getting the exposure completely wrong. It's not doing a great job of it at all really on the exposure side, but the actual image quality is good. The sound itself is on the microphone. I'm roughly a foot and a half away, but I am in a room that's got fairly high ceilings and it's not very good acoustically. So I wouldn't expect it to sound amazing, but I would expect it to sound clear. The camera comes with a little tripod, and this to me really feels more like a token gesture. It's not terribly well built. It's a tripod that just opens out like this, and you have little telescopic legs on it. There we are, look at that. It looks more like some sort of space probe, doesn't it? Some sort of like 50s Russian space probe. But the way this attaches is at the top here onto the tripod mount, and it just untightens like this, and you can adjust it to whichever angle you want it to be at. The only thing I would say is it feels it's just, compared to sort of proper tripod stuff, it's really not that well built. It'll do the job and it'll sit on a table. It doesn't raise it up enough for me. If it's on a desk, I would need it to be much higher, otherwise I'm kind of looking down like that at the camera. So really, token gesture, handy for other things. I won't be using it with the webcam. This doesn't really tighten up very nicely. It just goes to a lock point and then is just solid. There's no real feel of it tightening up. It's just absolutely solid once it gets to its stop point. Not brilliant, but nice of them to include it. It's okay if you need it, I suppose. So image quality on the camera is equal to the 920. It's no better, it's no worse, I wouldn't say. And as far as webcams go, that puts it pretty much at the top of its league. It's really good. Doesn't the C920? The C920 was very well respected, and is still a very well-respected camera. I gave mine to my dad to be able to use on Skype, and he still uses it, and it made a massive difference to the quality compared to the one that was built into his laptop. I kind of wish I hadn't given it to him now, because it meant that I ended up buying this one instead, so I could have another one, because I did miss it a little bit after a while. Software-wise, well, this is what's going to let it down for most people. Logitech say this is a streaming camera for pros, which kind of doesn't really mean anything. But what they're saying there is that they're designing it for this particular market that I was talking about before, this kind of gamer market. Now, the big problem with the camera is this. Compared to the C920, I cannot find a way to lock the settings in. So all Logitech cameras in the past have come with additional settings, so you can manually set your exposure, you can manually set your white balance, you can turn your focus off auto, all those type of things that you can do with the camera. And not only have they cut back on the number of settings available, they also do not save when you restart your computer. It is the most annoying thing that I've ever seen with a webcam. Now, I'm exaggerating, I'm stressing a point here. It's not obviously life-changing or anything, but it's extremely annoying because if you are using it for the kind of thing that I'm using it for, or the kind of thing that any kind of gamer would use this for, you're going to set it up, you're going to get your focus right, you're going to get your exposure levels right based on the kind of lighting that you play under, and you're going to want to leave it like that. It doesn't work. It will go back to autofocus, which means it's always doing that horrible seeking thing where it tries to kind of pull the focus back or rechecks the focus. The exposure levels are going to be off. Like this at the moment, a little bit overexposed. I would reset this in the settings and I would get it just right for my environment. It's going to be reset again when you turn the computer off and turn it back on again. I haven't found a way around that. I think it maybe if you install the full Logitech software, it might start the LWS I think it's lws.exe file, this is on Windows by the way, file at startup, which then maybe resets those settings. However, not everybody wants that to be started automatically at startup, and definitely not everybody will want to install the full Logitech software, because that's the great thing with this camera now. You don't need to. I just plugged it into the side of the Mac, worked perfectly first time. Plugged it into Windows, didn't even tell me it had installed, it just appeared in all my stuff. Absolutely perfect installation. No additional drivers needed in Windows 10. Wonderful. But it doesn't work to keep the settings when you restart the computer. That will be a deal breaker for a lot of people. Logitech have said on forums that I've looked at that this is how the camera's designed to work. It's how it's meant to be. I don't believe that. Fix it please, Logitech, because I think for most people who want to use this camera, that will make a big difference to their purchase decision. Go out and find a different camera. Go out and find one of almost equivalent spec. You'll struggle to get this kind of image quality out of a webcam because it is great, but having to reset your settings every time I go on Skype, I have to go in, I have to go to webcam settings, I have to adjust my exposure down, I have to make slight tweaks to my white balance, I have to reset my focus to non-auto. Really irritating. Other than that, nothing but good things to say about the Logitech C922. It has built-in H.264 encoding, so hopefully even lower end hardware will be able to take the stream from the USB because it's already been encoded. It doesn't take a CPU overhead to encode that stream in whatever video conferencing software you happen to use. Great webcam, retails about £90 in the UK, so certainly not cheap end of the webcam market, but worth the extra money for the great image quality and the great low light performance as well that you get from the camera. Really good camera, would recommend it, but please Logitech, sort out that software issue because it's very irritating. That's the C922 Logitech webcam review, and as I say, this is filmed on it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.